Feeling overwhelmed by endless tasks? Let's discover a secret or secrets to staying calm while getting more done. In this episode, I'm introducing my good friend and fellow productivity enthusiast, Mike St Pierre, as he shares the qualities of calm productivity, from being flexible and organized to mastering massive projects without the stress. So, are you ready to transform your work life with simple, powerful habits? Let's do it. Here's Mike. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Michael, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I can't complain. Great to be on the show today, and I hope I'm a worthy sit-in for Magda.
Yes, thank you for all the listeners. Normally, I do this episode with Magda, but Magda is right now otherwise engaged. She has different things that she has to attend to, and I asked Mike, as our Nosby expert, productivity expert, and my very very good friend, to sit in for Magda and talk about calm productivity.
Should be fun. Looking forward to it.
Exactly. So, Mike, can you just give our listeners, some background on who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, I guess I should say I am a Nosby enthusiast. I love the product. I love the company, and I thank you for all of your good work for all these years. I mean, it's pretty amazing. A lot of companies come and go, and I really think it's worth a bit of a pat on the back for you and for your team. But I'm here in the United States. I live in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, adorable little town in Pennsylvania. And I'm married 27 years. My wife and I have 4 kids. And professionally, besides being passionate about productivity and work and things like that, I have the privilege of serving as superintendent of schools for 33 Catholic schools here in our area called our diocese. And so we serve 5 counties, about 8,500 students, and just under 600 full-time teachers. And so it's a great blessing, and every day is mostly fun and a wonderful opportunity to serve and make a difference and help people work smarter and hopefully have more of an impact on the world. So that's what I do on the day to day.
Wow. So, uh, how many schools again? 33?
33. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And 800, 8,500 students,
Students.
600
Yeah.
teachers. Like
hmm
so you have to deal with lots of people.
I do. And one of the fun things, to be honest with you, is, when we have a new hire, we've come to realize that whether it's here at central office or in schools, you just can't presume that people have had any training in terms of how to work. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Just most people have we're a Catholic school system, so they have a great faith, they have a good work ethic, they're very mission focused. And I think for a long time, we've just sort of presumed, oh, they know how to be productive. They know how to work with others. They know how to collaborate. They know how to use technology. And that's just not the case. And whether people are on the younger side or older side, whatever, I just think people for too long have gone with this sense of they'll just figure it out. They'll figure out how to be productive. And
Yeah.
I don't believe that anymore. I really believe that it's time to begin to be intentional how we train people and the tools they use. And so it's been really a blessing, with my own team and our principals out in the field to start to teach them how to work. And
Yeah.
so it's fascinating. It really is. And everybody's different. Everybody's different style. And so we're looking for kind of common skills, habits, and things like that. But yeah, it's fantastic. And they're super busy. These are primarily principals who they've never had more on their plates. Do you know what I mean? And there's
Yeah.
never been more that's been expected of them. And, we expect them to be amazing during the week. And then many times they have to do work commitments on the weekends. When they're at the grocery store, they're expected to, represent their school well. So it's very hard for them to unplug. It's very hard for them to like turn it off. And so it's a fascinating group to serve, and I feel very fortunate. I really do. And most days I wake up with a big pep in my step because I get to do some important work, I think.
What I really like and admire about your attitude here is the fact. that you're saying that you're serving, and because it's been always a struggle for me to talk to even to fellow entrepreneurs and to tell them, uh, when you're a boss, when you're a manager, you're basically the server. You're serving your people. Your job is to make your people's work easier.
Hmm.
So basically you're serving them. It's like in our faith, like Jesus was serving his disciples. And um and in business, in life, the boss is normally, people see the boss as the guy who, or the person who, commands, and everybody serves him or her, where it's the other way around, right?
It is. I mean, I don't know any principal or teacher who could have like scripted their career path. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's a lot of things in life that we can't predict, control, script out. Do you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
we have a phrase here where we say where our success is fragile.
Yeah.
Meaning that you take one person. You've seen this too at Nosby. You take one programmer out, one
Yeah.
designer out, one customer service person out, and everything can change.
Yes.
And that could have massive impacts on a school, on a business, whatever. So, I think that keeps us humble. It really does.
Oh, yes.
And a lot of these positions there's not a lot of glory.
Mhm.
This isn't, we're not in software development. These are people who are working hard, and they can make a lot more money in a different working context, so they're choosing to do this. So you have to be humble, and you can't fake it,
Mhm.
because if your people if they don't think you're humble, forget it.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't mean you're a doormat. It doesn't mean that, everybody, it's like Burger King, have it your own way, but you have to be really flexible. You really have to give them a sense that you got their back,
Mhm.
and they can count on you, whether it's in the middle of the night when something as bad has happened, or on a Saturday, whatever, so there's a cost to serving others. But considering the cost, I think it's worth it, and I think it's an awesome way to spend a life. So yeah, you got to be humble.
Yes, completely, completely. And um, the same way I approach, I've been running Nozbe for 19 years almost, and the same way I approach my servitude towards my customers. The same
Hmm.
way, I'm trying
Hmm.
to serve them, to help them change their habits, and we'll talk about habits today, for calm productivity. And the fact is, for me, the I don't know at which point, but at some point, but not in the beginning, but at some point in my career when I was running Nozbe, I realized that I'm really not selling software to people. I'm actually selling a way to change habits.
Hmm. Hmm.
and and when I realized that, I was like, wow, this is much bigger than just a piece of software. Like, this is, I'm making a shift. And so it's all, connected. It's not just, software. It's psychology. It's attitude. It's, everything in between.
Yeah, because think about it. If somebody is, like, let's say, disorganized, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, let's say they're not using an app like Nosby or whatever, there's a real cost to being disorganized.
Oh, yes.
They're gonna lose time, they're gonna be more stressed, they're gonna be kind of more messy, scattered, they're gonna miss deadlines, they're gonna be perceived not very well. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah,
think
not
there's a
professional.
lot. Yeah, absolutely. So I totally agree with you. And the tools we use matter. They really
Hmm.
do, because they sync up with the habits that we have. And so no, I would think back to, was it the earthquake in Japan,
Yeah.
where you flew to Japan and you opened up Noseby for people. I mean, I don't know. I don't know a lot of companies that would do that. I don't know a lot of CEOs that would do that. And I think for me that was kind of an early sign, like, this dude's different, and this is a company that actually really does care. And I can't say that about AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile, or what I mean,
Hmm.
or Google, or even Apple. But
Yeah.
that's why we like small companies. Our organization, we like doing business with small companies, and we can't always, but when we can find them, it's easier to work with. and
Yes.
because they actually have a heart, and you can get a person on the phone or a Zoom call or whatever. So yeah, I think you're doing a lot more than just building a to-do app.
Thank you. Just the other day, I was with my wife on a date. We went to a different town, like an hour away from my hometown, and it's been like the first time in years that we've visited this town, and we went
Hmm.
to the main square of the town, and it was getting cold and it was a bit rainy, and we went to a local bookstore to just hide ourselves from the rain
Yeah.
and from the cold. And my wife suddenly appears like with a pile of books that she wants to buy, like this. And I'm like, What happened? Like, why are you buying all these books? Like, we were supposed
uh,
to just be spend some time here just to
uh-huh.
warm up and not get soaked. And she was like, Michael, I, I want to buy these books, and instead of buying them from Amazon, I'm going to just buy them from this local bookstore.
Yeah.
And I thought it was brilliant. It was like, you're right. I mean,
Hmm.
if she's going to buy these books anyway, and
Hmm.
like, let's support the local
Absolutely.
bookstore on the square
Right.
of the small town, instead of
Right.
a
Right.
big reseller.
Yeah, because Amazon doesn't need your wife to buy more books. They've
No,
got
no.
they've got plenty of other customers, but that
Yes.
bookstore does. That bookstore does need your wife.
Exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. It's like, I think it's also with the pandemic. I think we realized how the local businesses are important to us. Like, if a local cafeteria or a bar or a pub or a restaurant dies because
Hmm.
they don't have any customers, like, we
Hmm.
miss them, like, we miss going there,
Hmm.
and that's why I post pandemic, I started noticing much more, like, the local businesses and
Hmm.
the local yeah, just to support local communities.
Hmm. Sure. Yeah, it's so important. We moved during COVID, and I just figured it'd be no big deal. Well, we moved right before COVID, and then COVID hits, and we went from one state to the next. And we missed a lot of those interactions that we just figured were like not a big deal. Like you go get a pizza on a Friday night, you have a little chit chat with the guy behind the counter. You go to the dry cleaner, you have a little conversation. You go to the post office, whatever. It's not like those people are all like dear friends. You're not
Hmm.
inviting them over for Thanksgiving, but they are meaningful interactions with humans. And
Hmm.
when you start adding those one on top of the other, it makes a real difference in a person's life. And we found during the pandemic, we didn't have any of those, and we kind of missed them. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, we realized too the importance not just of those businesses, but those people. And
Yes.
we're talking a lot in our schools about artificial intelligence, and we're on one hand we're really excited about it, and we're trying to keep up with it and surf the wave, which is tough
Exactly.
because it's so fast moving. But we're more interested in human interaction. We're more
Hmm.
interested in helping young people form friendships. We're more interested in helping people like figure out what's their calling in life, and how can they make a difference in the world. And so it's a fascinating time, to help young people navigate this whole like technology, real people, real life dynamic. It's moving so quickly.
Exactly. So this all comes, down to the topic of our conversation today. So in all this, in this fast pace, in this world that basically tries to induce anxiety in you, right? How do you remain calm? How do you practice calm productivity? Like, how do you define this?
Hmm. Well, Michael, I was thinking about this recently, and I've been kind of noodling on this idea for a long time, this idea of like calm productivity. And I've realized a couple of things, and it's interesting. I just did a focus group with some of my colleagues yesterday
All right.
here in the diocese, and they're all very productive. They're all very busy. They all have a lot on their plates. Some of them wear multiple hats, and so I asked them all kinds of questions, like, how do you organize your week? Do you use
Mhm.
a to-do list? Use a paper planner? How much do you rely on email? Oh, like all this. Now, this is really sad, but I asked them, there are 6 women in the focus group. I said, how many of you are familiar with David Allen's Getting Things Done?
Yeah.
And not a single hand went up.
Oh, wow.
And which I had a little moment of sadness there, as I'm sure you would too.
Oh,
And I
yes.
realized they are really productive, even though they literally have no concept of getting things done the way you and I might.
Yeah.
And so it's been a concept I've been thinking about for a long time. This idea of being calm is a superpower,
Yes.
especially today, because whether it's technology or information overload or AI or just whatever, life commitments, being calm, I think, is one of the secrets, to getting more done, but also just having a sense of satisfaction and happiness in life. I've been listening to Arthur Brooks's new podcast called Office Hours,
Uh-huh.
and he's a social scientist from Harvard University, and he talks a lot about what are the things you can do, like literally what can you do to contribute to your happiness. And
Hmm.
it's kind of like Gretchen Rubin's The Happiness Project, but
Yes.
there's just a lot of science behind it. And a lot of it comes down to habits. A lot of it comes down to how you work. And I wrote this post recently because I'm really fascinated by how people work.
Hmm.
And I get really intrigued when they have success in one company or school and then another, because it's kind of like, in a sports metaphor, like you can get a job as a coach for one team, which is a big accomplishment, and you could maybe even do a good job. That's not nothing. But to then go to another team and do that,
Yeah.
that's somebody I think that's achieving mastery. And
Yes.
that I find absolutely phenomenal. So I highlighted two individuals in particular, one who um, her name is Carrie Robinson, and she runs
Hmm.
Catholic Charities USA. And so she's literally steering the ship for outreach to the poorest of the poor in the United States across all of our states, every government. Like, she doesn't look at it as you're poor, you're rich, you're Republican, you're Democrat. She looks at it as you're a person. And
Hmm.
when you need help, we want to be able to deploy resources to do that. And Carrie is amazing in her current role, but when you look back over her career, you say, oh my gosh, she was amazing there and there and there. And she's been doing this for a long time. And then I talked about a principal named Ken Jennings, who has similarly gone from school to school. And the man just he keeps being successful.
Yeah.
This school, he did this and they won these awards. This school, they did that. And you start to put the pieces together. You say they were calm. They had a way of working that allowed them to kind of moderate their emotions. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure they have days where they're,
Yes, of
really,
course.
really just sad, depressed, whatever, or really excited. But they find kind of that through line where they try not to get too up, try not to get too down. And their habits, like the Arthur Brooks concept, or atomic habits, James Clear, whatever,
Yeah.
they've kind of made them so routine that they don't really have to think about it. So for example, they're committed to their physical health. And so they have
Hmm.
things that they're doing, whether it's their diet or exercise or weights or whatever. They're committed to their intellectual health. And so they're readers. Most people who have a sense of calm productivity, they're feeding their intellect with good stuff on a regular basis. They have obviously a faith foundation, and so they're being fed spiritually on a regular basis through prayer and through being part of faith communities, etc. Um, but also in terms of their workplace habits, and this is a Nosby connection here, they likely have very simple systems that work from context to context. So small
Yeah.
company, big company, whatever. And I've definitely seen this, because I've gone from running a school to running a national nonprofit to now just serving and supporting our schools. I've definitely been stretched, like you go from
Hmm.
one context to the next. And that first year, it really tests your skills, your productivity skills. You're like, wow, my email intake has doubled. Okay, I need to adjust to that,
Yes.
or wow, I went from 5 meetings a week to 20 meetings a week, okay, I need to make sure the backbone of my productivity can adjust to that. So that's this idea of, a productivity system that's calm, that you can take it with you from place to place. So yeah, I'm intrigued by how people work, and these two people kind of spurred on that article.
Yeah, I mean, uh, I didn't know them, so I was reading about them, and yeah, their accomplishments speak for themselves. And this also brings me to this idea that as an employer, I what I'm looking in the employees, like in people who are going to join the team, who are in my team, and recently we've had some ups and downs, speaking of not calm up productivity, because at some point we had just, we had we were lacking people on the customer support side. And especially shout out to Emilia, who was just basically carrying customer support for a while almost alone, because like we had some issues there. And then Ivona, together with her, like it was complicated. And now we have two new hires there, and everything is looking up again. But through that, we've been trying to hire for these posts, and people who stood out were also uh, uh, were people who, first, you could see from their past performance that they were, their CV. When you look at their CV and analyze it, they did some meaningful things. It's the first thing. But second thing, already in their answers to the, in the, because we had a questionnaire and all that stuff, in their answers you can sense enthusiasm and kind of this what Americans say, can do attitude, right?
Hmm.
And what I have found out is that it's really hard to teach a can do attitude. You really kind of have to have it. And I still remember this. So I always tell this story when I was hiring a programmer, and I mean, actually, I wasn't hiring a programmer. We were hiring help for our Android app, and we needed some consultation, because our Android app was good, but we needed some additional Android specific features. So we hired a freelancer. And this freelancer, we gave him access to our Android code, but we told him that we don't have tasks for him yet. We'll clear this out and we'll let him know, in a week. And because we're busy right now with other things, after a week, we came back to him with a list of tasks, and he was like, "Yeah, that's all done. Do you have anything else?" And we were like, "What?" Yeah, I looked at the code and I realized these things are missing, so I just did them.
Hmm.
And yeah,
That's awesome.
and when we heard that, we were like, we need to hire this guy. Like we have to find a position for this person. Like we
Yeah,
want to work
yeah.
with him now.
Hmm. That's great. Yeah, that's such a rare quality, this sense of, and I don't know, I'm not trying not to pick on younger people,
Hmm.
but it requires ownership. It requires a little bit of
Ownership, exactly.
little curiosity, and a desire to like be part of a team, and that can-do attitude is contagious, because then other people on the team see that and they're like, oh, guess I got to step up my game, so
Exactly.
it's good for the individual, but it does sort of ripple out to the other team members.
It inspires everyone else. Like, so
Hmm.
it's um and what I and for example, something that speaking of schools and kids, like something we always say to the kids, we want to make sure that we teach we inspire curiosity in the kids, like that they are
Hmm.
curious. And when I meet adults who are not, I'm really
Hmm.
disappointed.
It's sad, right?
Yes, because
Yeah.
like this is what you expect. You expect, like, like, aren't you curious? Like, don't you really want to know?
Hmm.
You
Yeah, we
know?
just had voting day here in the United States yesterday, and
Hmm.
um, I always find that fascinating, and I'm guilty of this too. But we go into the voting, little booth,
Yeah.
and I don't know that much about the people I'm voting for, and I'm not
Yeah.
proud of that. And I suspect I'm not the only one, that
Yeah.
we might have a whole country here in this side of the pond that people, because of more technology and the phones and all that, are we at risk of becoming less curious? And I think we might be, and that's why I go back to the basics of human interaction. The
Hmm.
basics of if you can crush your to-do list but you can't run a meeting, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Or if you can crush your to-do list but you can't interact and play with other people nicely in a professional environment, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So I suspect we're raising up a lot of fantastic AI developers, um, but that's not really enough at a certain point. And so yeah, I'm with you there. Here's to the comeback of curiosity and ownership.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So back to practicing calm productivity. Back to trying to remain calm in this hectic world. Um, uh, how would you like how would you describe that? How that people should or would be advisable to manage their energy and everything. How to stay calm in this hectic world.
I think a lot of it, Michael, is being able to find your center when you feel the car kind of veering off. Like everybody knows that it's not a good feeling of when you're driving a car and it's late at night and you're tired and you start to doze off, and the car goes off. And what do? You jerk it back real quick,
Yeah.
and it doesn't feel good, but we all know what it's like in that situation. I think work is very similar,
Hmm.
and work and life sort of rolled together, where you might have a bad day, you might have um, I don't know, you might have a bad meeting. You might
Hmm.
have a difficult conversation with your boss. And the whole thing is, how do I kind of get back then onto the straight and narrow? How do I kind of recalibrate? And, not to make this all about GTD, but mind like water,
Yes.
how do I kind of get back to calm? And I think the way we get back to calm is through our habits, through our systems. Like I'm guessing you feel this way too. To me, my productivity system is like a friend.
Hmm.
I can't imagine going through life without a friend. I can't imagine going through life and work without my productivity system, as multi-layered as that might be or might not be. Um, and so just as, if you're having a bad day, what do? You call your friend.
Yes.
For me, if I'm having a bad day, I actually find real calm from giving myself permission to go into my productivity system. And so that might be journaling, that might be praying in the morning, that might be getting out into nature, going for a walk. It might be, like a meaningful no tech 10-minute break in the afternoon. All of those things I think add up to the ways we can get back to center, and unplugging is a big piece of that. At the end of the day, reconnecting with those that you care about. um, I think your environment matters a lot. I think like your home, your workspace, I think it matters a lot more than people realize.
Hmm.
And so all those little things to improve and make them more personal, I think make a big difference. So I think that's sort of how I look at calm productivity, is just, can I get back to center? And do I
Yeah.
have some habits and systems and tools that contribute to that, that I like, that I use regularly, that kind of work for me and feel about right? And one thing I've learned, most of the people on my floor here at central office are women. I've learned that guys look at productivity very differently
Yeah.
from women. And that's okay. We're built differently, we're wired differently, we're designed differently. And, I do think that there are certain, through lines and commonalities that whoever you are, I think work and make sense. But I have learned a lot from my colleagues and my coworkers and our principals, that my way of working is probably not going to exactly port over to somebody else's. And so,
Hmm.
again, it keeps you humble. But I think just, to me, come productivity, can I get back to center? And can I
Yeah.
kind of take a breath and remember that I'm so fortunate to be on planet Earth, to be doing work that matters, to have
Hmm.
people that I care about, I mean, to have a job that's meaningful. I mean, wow, like these are not givens. People don't have these things necessarily. And so again, that sense of gratitude contributes. It's like the percussion underneath the song. I think when you have a sense of gratitude and you have habits and routines that contribute to gratitude, I think that's also a way of kind of getting back to center.
Yeah, completely. Like that's why you mentioned journal. We mentioned, we thought we had a whole episode about journaling and about my way of journaling here on this podcast. So we will link to it in the show notes if somebody hasn't heard about it. But um, for me, the practice of journaling really also keeps me grounded. Like
Hmm.
keeps me, as you said, focused, or helps me get back to being focused.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I remember I had a coaching session with my business coach, and she asked me, "So, Michael, like, which days are your best days? Like, what happens on your best days, on your most productive days?" And I was like, Yeah, when I have a sense of control. Like so, and to get back the sense of control, I start the day my way. I open the journal first. I do my journal. I do my morning prayer, and then I get to work. It's
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
it and this really helps. And then I don't have the hectic day. I don't have to play catch up. I don't like it's the sense of control and agency.
Yes, 100%. I mean, there's probably not a week that goes by that I have a priest, a pastor, a principal, a colleague come to me and say, I'm really feeling overwhelmed. Like that, I hear that a lot. And so, to me, out of control does not feel good. And again, I think it's sort of one of the wisdom points of getting things done is you have to have some sense of control, and that
Yeah.
control might be as simple as making your bed in the morning, but that might be all you can do on that day, or sense of control is I have complete agency over my schedule and I'm going to crush it. That might be your sense of control, but being out of control, it doesn't feel good. We feel disorganized, we feel overwhelmed. And I'm going to say this, and this is probably a little controversial, but I have this sort of working hypothesis that most people, when they feel overwhelmed, they're not cultivating and managing their project list.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I would say in the moment, okay, you're in tears, you're overwhelmed, show me your project list. But I have just this sneaky suspicion that they're probably not cultivating that project list. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So overwhelm usually becomes disorganized as a result of not really cultivating that productivity system. And so it's not calm. It doesn't feel calm because the foundation has become a little shaky. But again, a person who get back on the
Yeah.
horse, that's really the thing, because we all have those seasons or times that we're not going to be our best, and that's okay, but can I get back to feeling productive and organized and in control? I think that's the game, right?
Yeah, completely. And the whole thing, the so today in the morning we were recording a Polish podcast, and I was talking to my also my productivity friend Marcin Kwieciński, and we were talking about the importance of the weekly review. And again, as something that after the whole week of chaos, it's something that brings you back, that centers you again, uh, 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 exactly to regain control again of your time, of your plan, of your week, of your calendar. And uh, and we've been practicing the mighty Fridays. So we've been practicing this concept that on Fridays, weekly review in my company is obligatory. I mean, yeah, nobody's going to punish you, but we are actually saying that Friday is for weekly review. Everything else is optional. On Friday, after weekly review, you can do whatever you want. You can focus on your personal development, whatever. But the weekly review is so important. And Martin said that he always brings this example to his clients, saying, "Look, I know a company that believes that weekly review is so important
Hmm.
that the boss is mandates one day for it.
Hmm.
Like and he pays for this day. It's a normal working day, but nobody
Hmm.
works on the day-to-day stuff. Like
Hmm.
this is the day for weekly review, and he's right. Like this is exactly the day that we need, and this is and I've been thinking about this, that as I love this concept so much of having this Friday, this special Friday for weekly review and then personal development, that as long as I'm the CEO of Nosby, I'm not gonna give it back.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna cancel this. I mean,
Hmm.
we've been doing this for the 9 years, and it's
Hmm.
been good.
Yeah, yeah. It's the weekly review is just, it's indispensable. I mean, I have two older brothers. One was in software and one's in financial services. And I remember asking them one time, this is like back when I was, a teacher. I said, like, how much time do you guys like spend on the weekend getting ready for the week? And they looked at me like, what are you talking about? We just show up on Monday.
Yeah,
And I that like terrifies me. Do you know what I mean? Like going
yeah,
into a week without having kind of cleared the decks and kind of reconnected with my commitments and things like that. That does not feel good at all. And I'm not perfect. Probably, we probably all missed a weekly review from time to time, but it doesn't feel good. And yeah, I think kudos to you for, as a whole company, committing to it. And I continue to tell my team, you can't neglect your weekly review. But we may have to go in that direction because I'm still not convinced that everybody's doing their weekly review.
Oh man, like it's as you know, the history of this is that I've been neglecting my weekly review. Then I did it, and when I
Yeah.
did it, I saw that like we have tasks from like half a year ago that nobody has touched, and I'm like, what is this place? And we are the
Hmm.
ones trying to evangelize getting things done. We are
Yeah.
building a literal getting things done app for people and teams, and
Hmm.
we are not practicing what we preach. Like
Hmm.
this cannot stand.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, we're expected to be a few steps ahead,
Exactly,
and
exactly. But I still remember when I was in at the GTD summit in San Francisco, like in 2009, when I was starting with Nelsby, and I was invited by David Allen, and we went there, and there was one guy who said, um, uh, "It's important to remember that a weekly review has to be done at least once a month."
hmm. Hmm.
So what I'm saying is it's never too late to do a weekly review.
Yeah.
So even if you've skipped a few, you know, and but one of the things that I think that also is, and you mentioned that in your newsletter and in your writing, that one of the things that helps is time blocking.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
time block your weekly review, and
Hmm.
time block time where you get things done.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think the more we do that, you start to build momentum. It's like a muscle that you build, and each week it gets a little bit easier. And I have come to realize that I do think time blocking can look a little differently for different people. So
Yeah.
it might be as simple as, I have a calendar, I have my appointments, I'm going to review that, I'm going to touch that regularly. Okay, that might be fine, for some people. And then for others, like when I ran a nonprofit, I would time block every hour of the day. Now I have a lot more meetings. I have 15 to 25 meetings a week now. And so it almost blocks it for me. You
Oh
know what I
wow.
mean? So I
Yeah.
don't have to spend as much time because I don't have as much control over my schedule. But either way, I think it's just this whole thing of, you've got to have agency over what the time you have, and it's
Hmm.
limited, and you can't do everything. So you have to make some choices, and those choices fit into little blocks, and that's why we time block, because at the end of the year, we're going to be judged by certain things. Did I accomplish this project? Did I make progress on that project? So the time blocking is really important because it's going to lead to, that end of year discussion with your boss. Not for you, you don't have a boss, but for the rest of us mere mortals, we have bosses, and so our productivity contributes to that end of year meeting.
Yeah.
And there's a lot at stake, and I remember this sense one time. I was in kind of a bad, like, app switching season of my life. And I got to a point one weekend, and I felt like in my conscience, it was like, stop screwing around, you idiot. Like, your work depends on your productivity, like your
Yeah.
impact. And even, the sense like God can do more through you if
Hmm.
you're productive. And so that was a bit of an eye opener for me, because I just figured, oh, it's no big deal. I see something shiny in the app store, I want to try it out. Actually, there's a real cost to that, those switching costs. And at the end of the year, the end of your career, your life, whatever, that stuff adds up. So yeah, there's a lot to time blocking, and it can be fun too. A little treat, little reward. You've talked about this a lot. I love how you talk about, for a weekly review, you go to a little cafeteria, you get
Yeah.
a snack, a treat. You kind of make it fun. And I know for me, I like to do it in my office at home, and I put on some jazz music, and the dog
Nice.
is laying in the corner, and then before you know it, half an hour has passed, and it's like, I can breathe. I'm ready for the week. It doesn't mean
Hmm.
the work's going to be easier, but I'm ready. And that weekly review is like a gift. It really was.
Yes, yes, completely. And making these kind of habits is making this also this. switching of places, that you're not always doing everything in the same place. It's also important. Like I learned that from our common friend Augusto, who was always going to Starbucks, getting his special coffee that he would only get this kind of coffee only for weekly reviews. So it will be his
Yeah.
weekly review coffee.
Yeah.
And I love that. And then this kind of, that this is special, this is important. And I'm treating myself as I'm
Hmm.
trying to get control of my life.
Yeah, and it's going to look differently for different people.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're a young mom, with young children, that's going to look very differently
of
from,
course.
the season of life that you and I might be at,
Mhm.
or if a person's retired, that's going to look very. So I think, a little bit of compassion, a little bit of kind of flexibility that, again, I talk in comp productivity about it should be flexible because
Yeah,
seasons of life are going to change and you're going to have a lot of time at this season of life and no time at that season of life. And that's okay, because it's going to end at a certain point. But also the person is pleasant. You know what I
yeah,
mean? They're not like a grump. They're not an ogre. They're not like overly rigid. They can make fun of themselves a little bit, a little sense of humor. They're pleasant. They're kind of like nice to be around. And I think again, your productivity can actually make you nice to be around,
yeah,
because you have that ability. You're going back to center and you're kind of recalibrating. So yeah, I mean, could talk all day about this stuff. It's part of our DNA, I think, and to try to make an impact in the world. And so these little things matter a lot.
yeah. Completely. Like it's, um, you know, uh, also this fact, like as you know, our company, we work remotely, so we work all from our homes. And again, one of the things I respect my coworkers for is when they get things done. Like when they are reliable, when they are, getting stuff that they promised they would, they would do, they do it. And it's like a different connection. Like, and it's so good, so easy that and again, it's so inspiring if people get things done around you, even though they're not around you physically, but they are, in your team. When I see these tasks, these comments, happening in Nosby, I'm like, okay, I have to, as you mentioned, I have to up my game. I cannot, be, and especially for the CEO, I cannot be the blocking person. I cannot be a blocker that they wait for my
Hmm.
decision, or they are not
Hmm.
empowered for my decision, or something like that. So I have to really be ahead of the game all the time.
Yeah, I think progress is really satisfying,
Yes.
even in small doses. And I remember years ago, I was an assistant coach for soccer team, my son's soccer team. So it was like many
Nice.
years, and yeah, it was really fantastic. And I was kind of surprised by how satisfying it was to just make little baby steps of progress. And I found for the kids we were coaching, they were very satisfied too. And so
Yes.
we would start to track, shots on goal, and we would track, hustle plays, and we would track, good passes. And then at halftime, we would say, okay, here's how we did. And at the end of the game, and I found that that made a difference for them.
Hmm.
Don't get me wrong, I don't think we won any more games. However, I think that it was more satisfying for them along the way because they're like, I'm getting a little bit better.
Yes.
And I think in work, whether you're looking at a colleague horizontally in the organization or above you or below you, whatever, um, when you have people around you who are like, progress
Hmm.
over perfection, that is very satisfying. And so, yeah, I think you're right. Lessons from coaching kids in soccer.
Yeah, completely. Like for me, this whole concept of iteration, like you iterate,
Hmm.
like you keep
Hmm.
improving, just as you mentioned, by small things. It's
Hmm.
it's satisfying, and it compounds.
Hmm.
So just like we, like, whenever we like do this podcast, we have a whole template in Nosby of things to do. Like when we post this, when we record, when we publish this, when we publish that. And then with each iteration, with each episode, we are learning something new and we are improving the template. So
Hmm.
the new project from this template will be already better, just
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
by the sheer, but by the small change in the meantime. So uh, and I love this.
I think some of the thing of good leaders is giving yourself permission to be a little eccentric and try some of those little tweaks because you appreciate like a little change. Like here's something I've been doing lately where I would for years get up at 6 o'clock and pray and get my day started, whatever. And I said to myself, I wonder if I could, I don't want to go out to the gym in the morning, especially when it's cold. Like I don't have
Yeah.
the willpower for that. But what if I got up 10 minutes early? It's only 5:50. It's not a big deal. And what if I just built in like 15 minutes of aerobic exercise or weights? Like, could I
Hmm.
try that? Like, would that make any difference? And like 3 weeks later, getting up 10 minutes earlier is nothing at all
I see.
and just like giving myself permission to do that little tweak, like you're saying, those little changes I think can make a huge difference. And I don't know if it's just culture as we get older, but sometimes we think, I can't do that. That's weird. That's not for me. I'm not like that, whatever. And I just think we have to like give ourselves permission to be like a little bit eccentric and try those little things because we realize a little thing can make a difference. Like, I mean, it's nerdy. It's nothing in the big scheme of things, but like I have this plant on my desk here and it's just a plant. Okay. Like in the big scheme of things, like
Yeah.
it's nothing, but it's kind of something,
Hmm.
and so, did it take like a little bit of micro courage to bring in a plant and put it on my desk? Not really, it's just a plant, but it kind of makes a difference. And I think there's a lot of things like that in our lives and in our work that can make a huge difference, like cleaning up your to-do list, like making your weekly review a little more enjoyable, like tidying things up, like having clear expectations, like having agendas for your meetings. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we could keep going on and on and on. They're all little things, but they do make a tremendous difference. And giving ourselves permission, I think, to try those little tweaks is one of the secrets of this whole thing.
Yeah, completely. Mike, we could be talking about about all this for hours, but thank you so much for joining me for this podcast, for having this chat together, and uh, where can people sign up for your newsletter?
Sure, they can just go to michaelstpierre.org. I need to
Hmm.
double check. I have so many URLs. Yeah, michaelstpierre.org, and they can find out, more about me, and they could subscribe to the newsletter. The newsletter is called Faith and Focus at Work, but it really applies to just about anyone. And thank you so much. And it's been really fun. And I love any opportunity to talk about work and talk about productivity. And thank you and your team for the incredible work you guys have done for 19 years.
Thank you so much. So we'll link in the show notes to the to the proper website so that people can sign up and can look you up, and also to your social media, and also to your profile on our Nosby page as a Nosby expert, because you're one of our Nosby experts. Uh, and actually, we have a meeting in December about that, so there's going to be some updates coming. So thank you so much, Mike. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And if you still are on the fence whether you should have your productivity system, I think Mike has already convinced you that you should have one. And if you want to try Nosby, there is a gift for you. So you can check out this gift at the end of this. Right at the end of this podcast. So thank you so much. Thanks, Mike.
See you, Michael. Good to see you, buddy.
Thank you for being an amazing listener of the No Office podcast. Every other Wednesday, we meet to talk about productivity and hybrid lifestyle because we believe that work is not a place to go, it's a thing to do. It's a special gift only to No Office podcast listeners. When you sign up for Nosby using this link, nosby.com/podcast, you'll get $30 of credits, which you can use to upgrade to Nosby Premium. Nosby helps thousands of smart business owners and their teams get their professional and private life organized in a single app in a simple way. And Nosby is free for up to 3 active projects and 3 people on your team. So start today and claim your free bonus credits, which you will later need to upgrade to unlimited projects. Once again, thank you for being an amazing listener. Thanks for your support and for spreading the word about our No Office podcast and Nosby. See you and hear you in the next episode, and in the meantime, claim your bonus credits here.